we're going to talk a little bit about pain. For one thing, I think almost everybody can relate to what that means, because not too many humans get through life without having any pain. I'm Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse, and I live in Deerfield Beach, Florida, and Oyster Bay, New York. And I've been doing holistic medicine from the point of view of a nurse since 1964. So we all really have a concept of what that means. Of course, just like anything else, pain could just be an acute situation, you banged yourself. So you're not worried about the fact that you have pain. You're hurting because of the pain, but you understand why you got it. You banged your hand. You also know pretty early on after you're a child that it's gonna go away. So having that is very stress reducing. It's like, wow, this really hurts now, but 2 days from now I'll probably be fine. So it has a lot of components to it. Everyone has experienced it. There's all different kinds of pain. It's such a big thing now that it's led to what's known as the opioid epidemic. Nurses, as I'm a nurse, we're always trained to validate what level of pain is someone at with a scale of 1 to 10. Also, different kinds of pain. Is it pulsing? Is it sharp? Is it acute? And is it chronic? Because when we get into chronic pain, that's where the problem comes in. Because if anybody who's watching is either in chronic pain or has experienced it over time due to any reason, surgery, an accident, that's where it really interferes with your life. You almost can't think of anything else.
We tend to think of pain as the enemy, right? When we want to make it stop right away because nobody likes pain, right? But it's also a signal, right? So pain is the body's strategy to get us to pay attention that something is wrong. Something has gone wrong. It hurts. A lot of times that's the first signal that we have that something's not right. It's like, why does my elbow hurt? My name is Lisa Ganora. I'm from Boulder, Colorado, and I'm the director of the Colorado School of Clinical Herbalism, CSCH, and also of Elderberries, a farm in Paonia. We have this tendency to be like, stop hurting, elbow. But again, what we need to do is like ask, what's the origin of that? Like, what is that signal about? What's it trying to tell me? And almost always with a pain situation, there's an inflammatory component, right? Because the body is always trying to self-correct. Okay, it's always trying to get rid of infectious organisms and balance its processes and excrete its waste and take in its nutrients. Like that's the vital intelligence of nature, right? The body's always trying to rebalance itself to have some kind of like dynamic equilibrium, right? But say you get something like you get a splinter or a sticker and it introduces bacteria into your skin and under your skin, and the immune system goes into alarm mode and it wants to localize that infection so that it doesn't spread and get worse and kill you, right? So part of the way that the immune system does that is it causes an inflammatory crisis right there, which is appropriate for the moment because it's a healing strategy, right? Or say you're out hiking and you twist your ankle, and you wrench your ankle and it just gets hot and red and it swells up and it's all inflamed. Like, what's the body trying to do with that inflammatory response at that point is immobilize the ankle to prevent further damage, right? So, we might be like, oh, I'm going to take a bunch of anti-inflammatory drugs to make it stop hurting so I can go hiking again tomorrow, which, if you want to do that, go for it. But it's kind of counteracting the actual purpose of the inflammation. Right? So that's something to keep in mind. And, one of the things that goes along with that whole inflammatory cascade is the production of certain communications molecules called cytokines, which create pain, basically by stimulating your nerves that register pain. So part of the idea there is like, let's make it hurt and swell up so they'll do this while we heal, right? So in that sense, both pain and inflammation are a healing strategy of the body. The problem is when it gets too much and it goes on for too long, right? So again, excess chronic pain, excess chronic inflammation, they're expressing some kind of imbalance that the body's trying to heal with its strategic pain and inflammation, but it's not succeeding because something is missing, right? Some system is out of balance or some nutrient is deficient or, various reasons that chronic pain and inflammation is continuing. But it is an attempt by the intelligence of the body to heal a situation. So again, in that sense, it's a symptom. You need to find the underlying roots of it.
Pain in Chinese medicine is typically the suggestion that there's some type of blockage, whether it's blockage or stagnation of the qi or blockage or stagnation of the blood. And the idea is that where qi goes, blood flows. Qi is the commander of the blood. Blood is the mother of qi. So they have this very intricate relationship. My name is Sabra Goodman. I'm from Lakewood, Colorado. I'm an acupuncturist. I'm also a psychotherapist, and I'm also a body worker, primarily Zen Shiatsu, but also other types of body work. I think qi is like life force or vital energy, or even just simply it's just the energetic force that allows us to be here in bodies instead of free flowing as souls. If you think about your hand for just a moment, you'll actually start to feel more sensation in your hand, because more attention is going there, which is basically your energy, your vital energy is going there, and then more blood will go there. So we have the ability, there's plenty of research showing that we can actually alter blood flow in our bodies just through allowing, that the whole point of meditation, that we can affect our own qi and blood flow. But herbs also can facilitate this. So when there's pain in the body, there's typically a blockage. And then that blockage means it's not getting the vital qi it needs. It's not getting the vital blood it needs to feel nourished, right? If we don't get enough blood, organs will shut down. It's very important that we keep all of the blood in our body as much as possible.
Chronic pain, you have to find out why do they have it. In Chinese medicine, there's excess pain and there's deficiency pain. So excess pain is real stagnation, and that's easier. It's easier to deal with stagnation. Just move the qi in the blood. Deficiency pain is you don't have the reserves to build up, and so it's harder to get rid of. That's why chronic pain is harder. We try to find out the cause if we can. And in functional medicine, a lot of people are in pain because they're eating American gluten. A lot of people are in pain because they have food allergies that they're not aware of. Or they have Lyme's, or they have viruses. So you try to find out the reason for the pain. And is the pain isolated or is it systemic? Now, usually the best treatment for isolated pains is acupuncture when done well. Acupuncture done well is the best thing for kind of isolated pains. Systemic pains, we want to include herbs.
One of the reasons I've written several books on pain, such as Arthritis, one book with Dr. Eugene Zamperone, and also Herbs for Pain, little smaller e-book kind of thing, is because I found we get such good results dealing with pain with natural remedies. And the things that they use for pain in pharmaceutical interventions, such as NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, which are used especially for ongoing illness like arthritis. The problem is they do stop the pain, which is fantastic because you want to be out of pain, and sometimes they're necessary for short periods of time. The problem is they have such a high level of adverse effects. For instance, they exacerbate leaky gut syndrome. If you don't like the term leaky gut syndrome, doctors tell me they don't believe in leaky gut syndrome. I wasn't so sure it was a spiritual focused thing, but you don't have to believe in it or not believe in it. If we just call it intestinal permeability, we can all agree that exists because there's tons of literature about that. And the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs increase intestinal permeability, which increases the release of circulating immune complexes, which overactivates the immune system, and that is what initiates a lot of the reaction that we call pain.
The pharmaceutical opioids are hellishly addictive, as we know, and we're in the middle of this horrible crisis, and I think everybody knows, what that's about. So, Vicodin, a fantastic pain reliever. One Vicodin and your back pain is erased for 4 hours, but after a week, one doesn't work. Then you have to take two. After 3 weeks, you have to take three. And all we know, all those stories of people who escalate up to 30, 40, 50 a day, that's just unacceptable. And then their life is topsy-turvy from their addiction. So in the case of those, it's mainly the addiction.
We know the problems with opiates, which come from a plant. I mean, you know, the poppy plant is what gave us morphine. And I mean, you know, when you think back of the way the battles and the wars used to be that were just brutal, you know, opiates were a gift. People thought they were gifts from God, literally. And then when we were able to extract morphine, and then when we created a hypodermic needle, it was revolutionary in the ability to manage pain from a plant. This all came from a plant in ways that we'd never had before. But you also put that in a society that suffers from a tremendous amount of soul pain. You're going to have people that are going to medicate not just physical pain, but other kinds of pain too. So the opiates, I think we understand their problems, but look at something like ibuprofen, which is commonly used and people think, you know, pretty benign. We know it increases the risk of heart disease. And it's particularly dangerous in people who do have heart disease. And acetaminophen or Tylenol, some very fascinating research. I mean, set aside the fact that almost all liver transplants that occur in the United States are due to chronic use of Tylenol, right? So half of all liver failure, most of the transplants are due from people taking too much and too long Tylenol, acetaminophen. But the newer research that is finding that even single doses of acetaminophen, when you use imaging of the brain, did this at one of the academic schools in college kids, that found that a single dose actually changes the part of the brain that allows us to feel and experience empathy. And there is a big question going on right now. Does chronic Tylenol use make, or acetaminophen, the generic name, acetaminophen, does it make people feel less empathy to others? And that is that almost is chilling when you think about it. So, you know, it's not just the opiates, it's a lot of the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories and other things that we use that people think are very benign. I'll tell you, as somebody who's worked at the United States Pharmacopoeia for a very long time, almost 20 years now, most experts do not believe ibuprofen and acetaminophen would be available over the counter if you were trying to bring them to market today. They're not benign, and many people think they should have a prescription.
And what I tell people who are on heavy-duty pharmaceuticals and they want to go off it, you can often wean off it with, of course, your doctor's approval and increase the use of natural remedies, as well as having a more anti-inflammatory lifestyle, which means a diet change, like just getting rid of a lot of heavy-duty fried food, meat, and wheat. Even if you just do that and replace it with lots of steamed vegetables and soup, there's more specifics to this. That's a great start. Sometimes in a week, you'll have less pain that fast.
So I think that pain is a very complex topic, and so when you start to look at it, is there an herb for pain or a supplement for pain? You have to step back for a moment and go, pain doesn't exist in isolation. Pain affects all kinds of pathways in the body, and it leads to mood problems and sleep problems and anxiety. I mean, it leads to all kinds of things. So the beauty about herbs is that you can really personalize them. So if an individual comes in with migraine pain, that's a very different thing than somebody coming in with chronic lower back pain. And that the beauty of the plants are that you can really single out those plants that will be most effective for that individual.
There's a diagnostic process that we go through to understand what causes the headache. Is it, do you wake up with a headache? Does it come on later in the day? Is it a migraine? Does stress make it worse, which it typically does? I'm Chris Cannon, also Christine Cannon. I live in Denver, and I am a doctor of acupuncture and oriental medicine. So I'm predominantly an herbalist, but I also do acupuncture. Also, onset, like have you had these headaches your whole life, or did they just start up, 3 months ago? That's going to lead me down different avenues in terms of formulas to choose. Once again, also, is there any weakness contributing to the headache? Because that definitely leads me to another formula. So I choose a formula that brings energy down from the head. So in Chinese medicine, headaches are basically there's too much energy up in the head. and energy does go up to the head, but it's meant to flow back down again, right? So it's supposed to go throughout the system. So with headaches, it gets up there and it doesn't come back down. And so we need to use herbs that guide the energy down into the rest of the body. So when you've got a pure, what we call excess headache, where all the energy's up there because the person had a fight with somebody, with their partner or whatever, and the energy went up, it got stuck, they got a pounding headache, we're going to bring the energy down and be done. If it's more chronic and there's some weaknesses, and where in the body yin and yang play off each other, and they're interdependent and they're connected. So yin is more in the lower body, yang goes to the upper body. So, but they're connected in the middle, like they're attached, so to speak. And so if yin gets weak, which happens naturally actually with age, but it also can be constitutional, or it could be because of too many late nights, too much coffee will damage yin. And the yin can't hold on to the yang, right? So the yang tends to float up into the body. So we do need to bring the yang down, but we have to strengthen yin so it can hang on to each other, right? So that's a different formula. Tianma Gorten Yin is the name of the formula that comes to mind, and that's a formula that subdues yang, but it nourishes yin. And so we're doing two things at once. As opposed to, there's a wonderful formula that I use quite frequently called Chai Hu Longu Muli Tang, and it's really good when everything's up here. And there's headaches, there can be anxiety, there can be insomnia, but the person literally can't get out of their head, and so it really brings the energy down, it moves the energy, and it's not so nourishing. It doesn't, the yin's not really part of that picture. We just bring it down, bring the energy down.
We know that within just a year or two of somebody developing migraines, they tend to put on weight, their risk for depression goes way up, anxiety. So then not only do you look at the herb that may help with the migraine, but then you begin to select the herbs that also could help with mood and energy and sleep. And then you can put those together in a way that really individualizes that treatment for that person. And that's far more than just giving somebody a triptan, a common drug for prevention of migraines.
This is feverfew, and feverfew is a well-known remedy people use for headaches, migraines. It has a bitter, descending quality to it, so when energy has kind of risen up to here, it can help pull that back downward. I'm Richard Mandelbaum. I'm an herbalist in New York. Herbal medicine for me has the magic and potential to reestablish for us our relationship with the planet that we live on. It's actually closely related to chrysanthemum, and chrysanthemum flower is often used in a similar way, but much milder. So this is a remedy a lot of folks are going to be familiar with. Now, in terms of migraines, for example, a lot of people try it and then say, oh, it didn't really help. The reality is, for most people, it's more preventive and cumulative, and you take it for several weeks and its energy builds up, unless you take a very high dose, which can, it's not always recommended, depending on what you're looking for, can start to become a little emetic, which means inducing vomiting. So it's not unsafe, but maybe unpleasant. But that actually, in turn, sometimes helps people feel better. They kind of purge and feel a little bit better. Not really a popular way to go about things these days, but you look through the history of herbal medicine and purging, and it can be taken too far, but we probably would do well to at least incorporate it back a bit into what we do. So this good, bitter, descending energy of feverfew, very helpful for a lot of folks.
I love things that are, definitely anti-inflammatory in terms of pain management and herbal medicine. And two I'll talk about. One is turmeric. Now, turmeric is like the herb of the year. I've been using it for 40 years as something to help modulate pain, but it's a very big deal now. So I imagine you're going to hear about it from a lot of different herbalists and providers.
Turmeric works well for pain, partially because it is able to move the blood so well, but it also seems to have other properties that are anti-inflammatory, and it's not, it doesn't seem like pain is its only avenue in terms of what it does as a function. It seems to be more of a super herb, in that it has multiple effects on the body. turmeric also helps with the appropriate amount of bile secretion from the gallbladder or the liver, depending on if you still have a gallbladder. And in that sense, that supports digestive function. And also because bile not only plays a role in digestion, but the whole point of eating and digestion is to make blood and to have energy so that we feel like we can go about our day with joy.
If you just look at turmeric as an herb to address pain, it's like my knees hurt, I'll take turmeric, gets better. Usually there's some effect there, but the situation again is don't try to suppress a symptom with an herb unless you're doing that on purpose for really good reason, because the symptom is an expression of your body struggling to correct something that's gone wrong, right? So, that's the easy way. You don't want to feel your knees hurt, and there's nothing wrong with taking some turmeric to help with that, but you need to identify the underlying cause of it, right? And if the underlying cause is, you ran way too much and damaged your knees, and that's just the way it is, and turmeric helps them hurt less, then fine, take some turmeric to help your knees hurt less. But if the underlying cause is you have a gluten intolerance and it's making your joints hurt, and you take turmeric and keep eating donuts every morning, that damage is going to continue to happen. So the anti-inflammatory property of the turmeric at that point is going to kind of enable, it's going to be an enabler for you to keep doing the thing that's causing your knees to hurt, right? So, but the cool thing about turmeric is it's a very benign herb. It's not toxic. Like, there are very few people who have allergies or adverse reactions to turmeric. And it's beneficial to your liver, and it's, anti-inflammatory and antioxidant for the cardiovascular system. So it's one of those medicinal foods. It's curry powder, right? So there's nothing like inherently dangerous about taking turmeric for a pain situation, except that you might be masking an underlying disease process that's going to continue to get worse.
We have many, many herbs for pain that work very well. The